My name is Brandon Peacock, and in June 2020, I got caught in the middle of a drive-by shooting. As bullets started to fly, I used my larger body to shield a young mother of 3. Fortunately, this worked and she didn't get hit once in the crossfire, but I ended up getting shot 3 times. The first bullet hit me in the left knee and didn't do too much damage. The second bullet hit me in the chest and broke about all of my ribs, but it missed my heart and my lungs by millimeters. The third bullet that hit me in the right quad and burst my femoral artery. For most people, this would have been a kill shot. Fortunately for me, I had a police officer who arrived on scene in 4 minutes and was able to get a tourniquet on my leg to stop the bleed out. I was told that if he was there 30 seconds later, I would have died. When I did make it to the hospital that night, my parents were told that there was a 50-50 chance I was going to wake up the next morning. Obviously, I made it through that night, but when I woke up, I had some pretty significant damage to my right leg. I was told that because of the nerve damage, I was most likely never going to walk normally again. But I wasn't ready to give up on my life at just 23 years old. After being told that I'd be lucky to walk normally again, I asked my doctors if it was even in the realm of possibility that I could run a marathon within the year. He laughed at me like I was crazy, and I laughed back. But as soon as I got out of the hospital, I got to work. I worked out about 5 hours a day, 7 days a week, and gave my rehab everything I possibly could. 6 months into recovery, I went back to the doctor's office to do an EMG test. The goal of this test was to figure out if my nerves had begun regenerating. My doctor told me it didn't look good. He actually said that it was one of the worst cases of nerve damage due to compartment syndrome that he'd ever seen. So I asked him the same question as my initial doctors. He looked at me and laughed. He told me, "Brandon, you should be grateful you're alive. But in reality, you're probably not going to run a marathon anytime in your life." What he didn't know is that same morning I'd run my first half marathon. When I told him, it blew his mind. He studied me for the next few hours and still had absolutely no idea how it was possible. Just over 6 months after that day, I ran my first full marathon, which took me just over 4 hours, which is a little bit slower than I would have liked, but nonetheless, I was still pretty fired up with my accomplishment. 3 years into recovery, I've run thousands of kilometers, even after my doctors told me it was impossible. I've also raised tens of thousands of dollars along that process for other trauma survivors in hopes of allowing them to recover as well as I did. In a weird way, being shot and nearly killed was the biggest blessing I've had in my 27 years on this earth. And what's so beautiful about it is before I was shot, I was a pretty average guy. And now I still think I'm a pretty average guy. Which is why I can say with confidence that every single one of you who's watching this video has the capacity to do the impossible within them. You just need to find the courage, self-belief, and vulnerability to pursue it. And I hope more than anything that it doesn't take a life-altering trauma for you to figure that out.